My name's Steve Armstrong. I'm from, I guess, Louisville, Kentucky, and I live in Tampa, Florida now.
I'm Joe Hodges, and I was born in Florida, raised in Georgia, and now Tampa, Florida is our home. And this is our son, Finnegan. Finnegan, can you say your name? And where do you live?
A Tampa, Florida.
Very good. And what's your whole name? Very good.
Joe and I met, we played on the same softball team, and it was probably 1997. We actually, didn't really know him that well, didn't get to know him for many years later.
He was dating somebody else at the time.
I was dating somebody else. He moved away for a while, I moved away for a while. I kept running into him when I bought a house back here because I was in the process of moving back to Tampa. I ran into him like, well, he'd just be a good guy to know because I already knew a little bit about him, not very much. So one day we kept running into each other and say, oh, we'll have to have dinner sometime. And this was 10 years ago? Yeah, right at 10 years ago. Then from that, we had dinner after trying for 3-4 months. We kept trying to set dates and it just never worked, and we were running on different schedules. And we just met and had dinner, and after dinner I was like, wow, he's a really good guy. He's a lot more than I thought he was. So that's kind of how it all started.
I invited him to come to Shakespeare in the Park a few days after that, and at Shakespeare in the Park, a friend of ours asked us if we were dating, and asked us if we were on a date, and I was like, no, we're not on a date. And then it's kind of sort of looked at each other and we're like, oh, maybe we are on a date. And the rest is history.
We both come from very religious upbringing. And I think it was a lot of secrecy for years. I mean, I really didn't come out for 3 or 4 years after I started dating guys. When I did, I dated somebody down the street. I lived down the street from my parents, and for them it became very obvious what was going on, and for them it was very traumatic. So it was I lost, some touch with my family. It was very difficult, more difficult for them than it was for me. But it was time for me to get a life and be honest with myself. So that's kind of how I looked at it. It was just time to kind of live what I wanted to live, and if you liked it, that's great. But if you don't, there's not much I can do about it.
For me, it was challenging. I knew I had a large family to kind of go through and tell, so I sampled out the ones that I was closest with, that I felt most comfortable with, and some of them were very easy to talk to, and some it was very difficult. Telling my mother was probably the hardest thing, and she took it not very well. And during that conversation, she was furious with me at one point, and I told her, I said, Mom, I was 28 years old at the time. I said, it took me 28 years to become comfortable enough to tell you who I am. And I said, you've known for 5 minutes. And I said, so there's nothing I can do at this moment to help you go through the process of what you have to feel, because you now have to understand and accept that you have a son that's gay, and that this is going to take time, and all I can do is be here now to support you through this.
Equality is just the fact that people will recognize that our relationship is real. I mean, after 10 years, if it's not real enough for people to acknowledge that, there's something wrong with society. So that's kind of where we kind of see this. It's been a cause that we've supported because there's a lot of people that deserve a lot more recognition and a lot more security in who they are, just because society should definitely be recognizing how important each relationship is, regardless of who it's with.
Equality is obviously very important. It's something that's been fought for a long time by a lot of the people that have come before us, and it's our responsibility to carry this over the mountain, so to speak. And I feel we're really almost there, but there is a larger battle to still be waged in ensuring that the required recognitions legally are set forth. But we have a cultural healing that has to occur. And there's a personal responsibility for anyone that's out there that is gay, lesbian, transgendered, or otherwise, to carry forward and to understand that while we've moved forward and are moving forward legally with the recognition of equality, we have a greater responsibility as the people that are the beneficiaries to carry forward with compassion and ensure that we heal the cultural fabric that exists around us.
So after many years of discussion, and at one point I was not on board with having kids at all. And it wasn't because I disliked kids, and I just never saw myself having one. And Joe wanted kids and wanted kids and wanted kids, and it was a focus of his life for a very long time. And then one day he just gave up. And
well, let me pick it up from here. So a year after that, I stopped asking him about it, and I stopped asking him, and then as we were out at dinner, one night he said to me, he goes, I never really thought about it until you asked me the question and about being a parent. And he goes, and the reason that I said no was because I never imagined myself being a father. And he said, so over this last year, I thought about what it would be like for me to be a father. And he said, I think I'd be a really good dad. And I was like, you would be. And he said, so I think we should have a child. And 3 years later, elephants can give birth in a shorter period of time, but there's a larger process in having him, but he's made it. Isn't that right? How did you get here?
As I did.
Because you did? Who brought you into our lives?
Dad and Daddy.
Daddo and Daddy?
that's cool.
Spin.
Yeah. Are you glad you're here?
You had a good life, buddy?
Yeah. All right.
It's okay.
The marriage equality fight is never going to be over until it is completely accepted everywhere in the United States and really everywhere in the world. When we travel with our child, if we go into a county or into a state that doesn't recognize our marriage and something happens with our child, he's at risk, because that state may not recognize one or both of us as the father of our child. And until we have that recognition, we have this responsibility to be married to each other because we've made that commitment. We have a greater responsibility because we have a child. And we have a overall responsibility because we have to provide this assistance to those who can't fight for it for themselves in this world. As we look around us, I would encourage anyone to, if you meet someone that is gay, transgender, bisexual, anything along those lines, look beyond the surface of what you see. It's very important to see what's underneath the surface of the people that are around you. We look at some of the homeless people that exist in our communities, and the minute we take a moment to ask a question and to understand a little bit, we realize that there's a great deal of depth in what has brought that person to the present state that they're in. And we all react and respond to the things that have existed around us and put those things out forth. And sometimes they're protective measures. And finding out what really has someone at this level, but getting down here is what's important. And that message goes in multiple directions. Even for the people that, if you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered, is look beyond the initial reaction of the people that you think might be saying something negative about you or to you, because they may be just protecting a wound, or they may be at a point or the cusp of an opportunity to make a decision of which direction they're going to go when faced with that conversation that we have to address every day. And you can be someone that can help make a change in a person's life along those lines.